wants to throw it to Sewell. He caught it. He Sewell with a first down. Oh, yes. The big man dives down the 31-yard line. Oh, that is beautiful. Fields looking, pressured, hit from behind, take it down. Aiden Hutchinson got him.
No respect.
So, we look like we're ready. This is day one.
No respect.
All right. Well, what's happening on a Monday night? I'm not expecting a whole lot of people to jump in this last minute off the cuff podcast by Rock Down Detroit Lions, but I wanted to give you guys a live look at what you're going to get this offseason. We talk a little bit live about the NC2A prospects that are coming up. The NFL draft will be here soon. Free agency is going to kick off in a few weeks. But let's give it a ride. Let's talk about it. And I want to go through the top 25 NFL draft prospects right now and see what you guys have to say. Looks like there's a few of you guys in. We'll wait a couple of minutes, see if we can get a few more people in. I'm only doing this because I want to give you guys a live look, like I said, at the type of work that I'm going to do for you guys and how crazy I am with stats. We just one more minute and then we'll get rolling. Looks like we got a few more people that joined. All right. So again, tonight is just a simple, quick, short, less than an hour podcast. I'm going to give you a live look at some of the work that you're going to be getting from me this offseason. When we talk about prospects, there's a lot of work that goes into it. I've done a couple of videos already. Keep getting these notifications. I got to turn them off. It is annoying. And I'm going to do a lot more for you. And I want to just give you an idea of how deep off into the weeds I go. So first slide is Rocked On Analytics. So I have adjusted all of the top edge rushers by height, weight, measurables, vertical strength, and break it all down and whittle it all down to try to find the most unique blend of a player. You're probably saying, dude, you're nuts. Why are you doing all that? Well, the reason why is because when I look for players, I want to make sure that I'm looking for players that fit the model, that fit, the design of a defensive end. So when I whittle down the top, 15, 20 guys, it gives me an idea of who that individual is. Now you have, one or two guys a year, maybe more, that don't fit this model. Aaron Donald definitely doesn't fit the prototypical defensive tackle size. A guy that we just talked about, Hassan Reddick, does not fit the typical defensive edge size. He's quite small, but he gets the job done as an outside linebacker. And he's on this list. Matter of fact, he's smack dab in the middle. He's 6'1", 237. So your average height for a defensive end is 6'4", 1/4", 265. Yes, Brad, he's really good at reading an offense. Yes. So 6'4", 1/4", 265, 10.5-inch hands, 33 3/4-inch arms, 4.55 40, 36.5-inch vertical, 10.5 broad, 29 on the bench, and a 6.95 cone, 3-cone. So these are some of the ones that, I key in on, and a few other ones. Obviously, when we watch the combine, there's a lot of things you can pick up. But this is where I start. I start with the measurables, and then I start to dive into the tape. So let's take a look at this, and then now let's look at the top 25 and see who's in there for defensive edge and who fits this metric. because I think we're all in agreement here that the Lions are probably going to take a defensive edge in this draft. I think everyone's in agreement with that, or at least we're hopeful, right? And I'll tell you who my number one prospect is right now. Before I get, really going into this, I'll tell you who he is here in just a few moments. So when I whittle this down to defensive edge, let me try that again. It didn't work the first time. 1 second. There we go. Why is it not working? One more second. One more time. Edge defenders. Now work. Well, PFF is being stubborn. Let me try it one more time. There we go. Now we got it. Okay. So let me share this with you guys. All right. Does that look okay? Can everybody see that? Welcome into Rockdown Podcast Network tonight. Rockdown Detroit Lions. Again, this is just a quick overview of the type of material and content that I'm going to be doing this off season. I'm now a year into this. I've been doing it for many years before. I just never posted it publicly like this, always on, Facebook or something, but never publicly, in a dedicated channel to the Detroit Lions or a network. So Dallas Turner is right now, he's the number one prospect for a defensive edge. I mean, he's the 14th ranked PFF prospect this season, but he's the first one in their list. And then Jared Verse, then Latu, Braylon Trice. So let's look and see if any of these guys fit my best defensive end size, which is 6'4" and a quarter. Well, Dallas Turner 6'4", weight 265 to 295. He's a little light. I think he could probably add or 10 to 15 pounds. And that's something you got to look at too. Can these guys do it? Do they have the frame? Do they have the size, that they can build into? Most guys can. Coming out of college, they can add 10, 12, 15 pounds pretty easily, especially getting into a professional weight room and, eating better food. I mean, they're not poor college kids anymore. A lot of them aren't poor, I guess, anymore with the NIL, but these guys are going to eat well, and they do eat well with their football programs. Let's look at Jared Verse. So he's 6'4", so he fits, and he's 260 pounds, so he's right there. Now, we don't have the rest of the measurables right now. They're not loaded up. When I go to the first look, there's nothing opened right now. So we don't have any measurables. I'll have to go dig for those independently, which I do. And, find the hand size, the arm length, the 40, the vertical, all that stuff. But of course, that's where we get it, at the combine. So ahead of the combine, I'm going to give you everything that I can. And then once the combine happens, I can give you a lot more. So I will revisit, some of these guys and how they shaped out. So I like to say that I do two mocks. I do the one before and I do the one after the combine because you get a lot more information. Sean Rounds at number 29, Trice may be there. I think the first three will be gone. In the first three, are you talking? So you're talking Verse, Turner, and Latu. I could agree with that, but there's somebody else in there that I love, and Trice is not him yet. Wait till the combine. He could change my mind. Braylon Trice is 6'4", 274. So right off the bat, he meets two of the measurables that I like. And what's funny is the majority of these guys are real close, like tweeners. They're right on the edge. Chris Braswell, 6'3", 255. So he's right there. He's in that second best tier. I kind of like my guys. I mean, I guess according to this, 6'3" and a half to 6'4" and a quarter, 265 to 295. Now, I think we've seen some guys that, are a little bit lighter that get the job done, like Micah Parsons, 245, outside linebacker. TJ Watt, 252, outside linebacker, defensive end, right? Max Crosby, 255. Man, he does not look 255, does he? Brian Burns, 249. And we don't know how accurate these are, right? I mean, these are just what's posted. And then you got Daniil Hunter, 252. Here's the difference. Some of these guys are like pure muscle, right? I mean, they are just beefed up. There's not a whole lot of baby fat left on these guys. Some of these guys got a little extra, chub. And it's okay. It doesn't slow them down. I mean, they're adding weight to add weight when they need it. Maybe they're not converting it to muscle yet. So some of these guys, that are Daniil Hunter, 250 pounds, but the guy is, he is built. So the next guy, Jonah Ellis, 6'2", 246. So that's the guy from Utah, Sean, the guy that you were just saying. Jonah Ellis. So he falls out of my category. And this is just like the first look at somebody. So I'm going to look at everyone from size and weight and all the rest of the measurables. And I try to find the best ones and I watch the tape and then I kind of go from there. Darius Robinson, 6'5", 296. He might be the perfect defensive end / could potentially be a defensive tackle. He's right there on the end, of the metric, almost perfect body size. So he's going to be one that I'm going to take a hard look at out of Missouri. Here's my guy. So here's my number one prospect. And he's the next guy. Asante Candle Company just subscribed. That's cool. Appreciate you. Let me see if I have it pulled up here. Nope, that's the wrong one. Let me pull. Here we go. I know it's in here. So again, these are the metrics that I start with. Yes, that's how nuts I get off with this stuff, man. But this is where I start putting the work in. Okay, so Latu, you guys might criticize me for this, but he suffered a rash of injuries and some pretty bad ones too. Serious neck injury that cost him the 2020-2021 seasons. And his former Huskies coach, Jimmy Lake, even said that his career was over, which is why Latu transferred to UCLA. Had a pretty decent season. So if you guys think anything like me, I think we've seen enough of injury-prone prospects in Detroit. I don't want another guy that's got a back or a neck. I'm fused in the neck and the lower back. I know what it feels like. To think that these guys can do that and play football is crazy to me. But I think we've seen enough with Levi Onwuzurike with the back issues, Vaitai with the back issues. I think we want to stay clear of that. We want these guys to hit the ground running and get on the field in 2024, right? Brad Holmes, right? Please. Let's not get any projects, in the first round or second. So here's my guy, Chop Robinson. So far, my early prediction right now is that Chop Robinson ends up a Detroit Lion. Whether he's taken end of the first, with their first pick, early in the second, just based on the tape and based what I've read and watched so far, I have him as a late first, early second round. Last year, I found some guys that, moved all the way up from the bottom of the list. Devon Witherspoon was one of them. And Kobe Turner was another. McDonald was another one. So that could happen. It happens every season. Right now, the top 25 list that's out there is worth the paper that it's written on because it's going to change. Like seeing a tight end, Brock Bowers, as the number 4 overall. That's crazy to me. I don't see that happening. But anyway, Chop Robinson, let's talk about him. So he's 6'3", 255. So he's just on the inside of the metric there. 6'3" and a half is my cutoff. 265 is my low cutoff. He's right there. So I think that he's not going to grow an extra half of an inch, but I bet you he can put on a few more pounds. All right, Sean Round says, in my perfect world, if the top 3 DEs are off the board, grab DT Sweat from Texas and grab Ellis or Robinson. He is raw, but very twitch. There we go. So you saw it too. Love it, man. Got the vision. And I agree with you on the DT. We definitely need another DT. So this first pick that we have, this is shaping up to be what I call roster roulette. This is the time when the Lions start to fill in that DT, DE, role, because you've got who coming up in a couple of seasons. You've got Aiden Hutchinson that's going to need a contract. Ali McNeil's going to need a new contract if you keep him. So what if you bring in a DT that's better than Ali McNeil? You may not retain him, right? I'm not saying this is going to happen, but what if Hutch doesn't turn out to be what they wanted him to be and they don't re-sign him? So they're going to start filling in the bucket. Now imagine it's not Hutch. It could be any other player. That's what roster roulette is for. You backfill against your top prospects that need to be the best producers on the team that are also some of the most expensive positions. And so every 2, 3, 4 seasons, you're filling in that pipeline so that the roster stays healthy, stays young, always in development, and the cap stays low and manageable as much as possible. Doesn't mean that we won't always spend all the money, or the Lions won't spend all their money. I think Brad likes to keep a little kitty in his pocket, but that's just how I look at things. Not to say that he does. So back to Chop here. Powerful build, explosive point of contact, incredible bend, solid ankle flexion, which is great to get, around the tackles, exactly like James Houston. Lateral agility and quickness. Dude is blazing fast, just like you said, Sean, on that first step. Explodes into a very long stride, which helps him get up and inside the quarterback quickly. He was 9th on the Bruce Feldman's freak list, which offers position versatility as a defensive end or outside linebacker. His capability to outmaneuver offensive tackles with his burst and flexibility makes him a formidable pass rushing prospect. His long frame and fast twitch gets Chop off the snap fast. His lower body flexibility and dip to get his shoulders low, get around the edge, accelerating into the backfield. Has speed to chase plays down from behind, shows off-ball quickness. I love everything about this kid. So 2 Penn State guys in a row that I've done now. So I did Theo Johnson yesterday and now Chop Robinson today. As a fit, he does fit. He needs to continue to add muscle and bulk to play up on the line, but I do expect Chop to blossom in his second season after a full off season of training in the mindset to add some size to his frame. I think that he could add, 12, 15, 17 pounds and still be able to move just fine. One of my quotes here is, if James Houston is not retained, he could fit nicely as an outside linebacker hybrid end role, similar to what Houston already is. His cons, though, I think his cons are this. He's a bit on the smaller side. So if you're looking for a 3-down defensive end against the run, he's a little overmatched with physical tackles more often. He's kind of more of a pass rush specialist role at the outside linebacker position. But there's a lot of spelling errors in my work here. Displays stiffness at times, and his hand fighting could use some work. And that, I think everybody needs to go to hand school, right? He tends to get stuck when engaged, relying on speed or power alone, and that's not going to work at the next level all the time. I think we've already seen a couple of guys try to do that, and they're finding out that they need more tools in the tool belt, if you will. He's definitely going to benefit greatly from working on his craft, hand fighting, pass rush techniques at the next level, which I think the Lions developed our guys great. I really do. I think they do an excellent job. Comparisons, I have him compared to Micah Parsons, quite honestly. I see a lot of the same player. As a junior, he was a little bit bigger than Parsons and almost as fast. They share a lot of similarities at this stage of their football career, which is very promising to me. So again, here, let me get rid of this. Apologize if the stream gets a little delay for whatever reason when I do, and let me know in the chat if it does, because when I pull up these things and then take them off the screen, it gets a little choppy and weird. All right, Aaron Latimer says, I think we trade the 29th pick for a splash free agent. Ooh. If Uncle Brad misses his guy in the first. Lone Wolf. Robinson has good speed. Outside linebacker, DE. Could be another James Houston. I think he's better than James Houston. I think he will be better. Let me be right back. I gotta grab Kleenex real quick. Give me 2 seconds. Studio's cold. Nose is running tonight. All right, what else we got? Steve K. Chop won't be available. When do you think he's going to be taken, Steve? Because right now I'm taking him with our first pick. Now this, when I say these things, when I talk about these opportunities for players, you got to keep in mind that my end all be all is not done. That'll come out definitely the week of the draft. Usually I do it the day before the draft. We do a full pre-draft show. And then the day of the draft, I go live for the entire draft. And I call a lot of the picks before they're going to happen for all the other teams and the Lions. Or we talk about them and I try to call. Let's put it that way. Lone Wolf, will you bring up some good points on Robinson? I hope so. I think I showed you guys my nutty ability to get after the stats and the information, right? Sean Rounds, Brad will not trade 29. He has proven that he values draft picks more than free agents. How cold is it in Michigan? It's a cool 77 degrees in Jacksonville. You know, it's been nice here. It's been like low 50s for the last week or so, and now it's starting to dip down, mid 30s or so. I should be in Florida in about a month. Go down to watch my boys play baseball down in Naples. So anyway, all right, let me keep rolling here. The top 25. So Chop Robinson, let me pull this back up for you guys. Did it get choppy? Can you guys let me know if it got choppy? Because if it did, I probably won't put these things back up. All right. So after Chop, you've got Adisa Isaac. Perfect. Thanks, Sean. And then Austin Booker. Both of these guys are close too. So Adisa 6'4", 254. And 6'6", 245. That's a big guy. I mean, tall. It's like Aiden Hutchinson size, 6'7". Then you got Javon Solomon, Marshawn Nealand. Both of those guys are a little undersized. Marshawn has got the weight, but just short on the height. And he's a hometown guy. So he was at Western Michigan. Should be getting a lot of looks. Nelson Caesar, right there. I mean, right at the cusp. Xavier Thomas, he's a little bit short. And Justin, I'm not even going to pronounce his last name. He's perfect, man. He's got that perfect height and weight right now. What I noticed, though, is this draft does not seem to be as deep as I would have liked for defensive end and defensive tackle. I think last year was a much deeper draft than it was this year. But there's a lot of options. And what I do like is there's some good ones that are going to be available in the mid rounds. And I think that Brad Holmes likes to get these guys, unless he's looking for a first rounder, to get that 5 years out of. He likes to get these guys more in the middle rounds, it seems like. Second round, third round, fourth round. Back to someone else's point, though. I'll come back to this in a minute. We're going to move over to CBS and look at the top 25 as a whole. So to somebody else's point about trading, I've said this a couple of times, and I just have this weird feeling. Last year, I did call the Lions trading out of 6 to 12, exactly to 12. I have this weird feeling that Brad Holmes is going to want to move up. And I don't know why. I don't think that he's going to trade picks for a free agent. I think that he's going to, or not a free agent, but I don't think he's going to trade picks to, make a trade with another team. I think that he'll bring in a couple of free agents for sure. I'm not positive, positively thinking that he's going to spend a big amount of money on one guy. I'm not there yet. Nobody excites me just yet. But as far as the draft goes, you guys know as well as I do, Brad Holmes is a mover and a shaker. He will move up, and, something Brad would do is then move back, with that same pick and get all of his picks and then some. But something tells me he might move up. Why do I think Brad? Yeah, I should probably answer that. Why do I think? I think that there's a player or two. Right now, Marvin Harrison is extremely interesting as a prospect. I mean, he is a day one. He's going to get it done for whoever he joins. He might be the next Jefferson, in my opinion. Could be better than Jefferson. And the Lions do need a receiver. I'm not saying that they need a number one because we have Amon-Ra St. Brown. And we have Jameson Williams, who started to really click at the end of the season. I mean, he was next to Sam Laporta, the best offensive player in the NFC Championship, in my opinion. I just, something tells me that if he's going to value keeping Amon-Ra St. Brown, he may not move up. But if he even thinks or considers for 1 minute that he's not going to extend St. Brown, which means maybe he waits until after the draft to do the extensions, then I think Marvin Harrison is on the list, especially if he were to fall. So there's going to be a lot of teams that want Marvin. I'm not saying it's, a lock. I just think that there's a possibility. And I'm not so sure that he would move up for just a wide receiver. I think that it could be a defensive tackle or defensive end that he may like, that he may want to move up for. The one thing that I'm really excited about and waiting to see what happens is Broderick Martin, since we're talking about defensive tackles a little bit. He is going to take the same approach that Ali McNeil did this last offseason to slim down and get some more agility in his body. So I'm really excited to see what he's going to turn out to be in 2024. Big guy, lot of promise. Didn't have squat for production this year. Really raw, and sometimes those players, if you remember, really raw guy Ezekiel Anza, really raw. He only played football, I think, for 2 years before going pro. I think it was 2 years, either 2 years before college or 2 years of college, and then he went pro. So really raw prospect. Obviously, he was head and shoulders above where Broderick Martin is. Two different positions, I get it. But the analogy is he's really raw, but he has great opportunity to do something with that body and that physicality that he already has. So, yeah, Evan, I know not re-signing St. Brown is unthinkable. It really is. Everybody loves him, but sometimes when you and I wouldn't know this because I've never managed a team, but I can only assume this goes through their mind. Sometimes you have to think of the greater good of the team. Like, how many guys can I give a big fat paycheck to before this team is right back where it was a decade ago? Or right back where it was when Brad Holmes took over this team, which was cash strapped, dead cap everywhere. I mean, this is the first real draft that we've got considerable money and assets. Last year we did pretty good. This year should be even better. King SJ checking in from Toronto. Hey, man, I didn't know you were out in Toronto. You live out there? You visiting? I have yet to go to Toronto. I would love to go there someday. So let's take a look at CBS real quick. Let's take a look at the top 25 altogether. And let's just see who's in there. And the Lions bite or they don't bite. All right, here we go. Marvin Harrison, number 1 overall. This is the guy that I think if the Lions want to really move up, if he slips at all, if we see a rash of quarterbacks go, which this list makes no sense to me. I better pull up the draft order real quick. All right, so it appears that is Carolina picking first or Chicago? Why does this list make no sense to me? So with Carolina, Chicago, Washington, so Chicago is, yeah. I don't know why it says Carolina on this. So Chicago, Washington, New England. I mean, all 3 of those teams could use a quarterback, right? Am I wrong in thinking that? I do think that the Justin Fields experiment is over. I think that the Chicago Bears are going to trade him away. I think that they're going to try to gain some more assets and rebuild this franchise around a new quarterback. They started last year with bringing in some free agents, and like I said earlier in the other video, just because you go out and spend a bunch of money in free agency doesn't mean that your team's going to be good. I mean, look what happened to Chicago this year. They have the first pick in the draft, and they outspent darn near everybody. It seemed like. Oh, that's awesome, King SJ. Rep Toronto, right, man? That's cool. So I guess, would I be wrong to think that all 3 of those teams need a quarterback? And that's why this list from CBS doesn't make much sense to me, because you would think that, are they ranking these as the top 25 prospects overall, period? Or is this how they see things kind of going, which maybe they're just top 25 overall? But I could easily see 3 quarterbacks going 1, 2, 3, potentially. I think Arizona is going to stick with Kyler Murray one more season. Chargers have their quarterback. Unless a quarterback slips to the Giants, obviously the Giants aren't going to take a quarterback. They just re-signed Daniel Jones last season. Tennessee Titans, who knows? Atlanta, they could use a quarterback. And then Chicago at 9. So I think Chicago is going to end up taking a quarterback and potentially taking a quarterback in the first round. We'll see what happens. New York Jets, they have Aaron Rodgers on another year lease for $100 million or something crazy, or whatever it was last year. They need a quarterback because once he's done, they don't have anybody. So there's a lot of teams in here that need quarterbacks. Minnesota needs a quarterback. Denver needs a quarterback because I don't believe Russell Wilson's going to stay there forever if he's not already gone. Las Vegas needs a quarterback. So there's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks. I think that there's going to be a run on quarterbacks no matter what. But that just doesn't really help the Lions. It doesn't. It doesn't help us because we're picking 29. And that's a bad spot to be in. But it's an intriguing spot too when you can move up, even 4 or 5 positions, and it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. Like you might be able to move up from 29 to 24, which that wouldn't happen because that's Dallas. Green Bay will never trade with us again after taking Brian Branch. But you could probably move up, 29 to 22 with Philadelphia and give up a 3rd round pick. So I could see the Lions easily getting north of 22. I think that could be a potential. I'd have to look at the rest of Philadelphia's draft picks to see how many they have. Whoever's hurting for draft picks, those are the teams that are more likely to trade out. And last year, Arizona was that team. The 49ers were that team until they got a bunch of compensatory picks. So we'll have to see who has, the least amount of picks. Those are going to be the teams that are going to want to trade. So back to this list. Marvin Harrison is the number 1 overall right now. Caleb Williams, number 2. I think you could flip-flop those come draft day. Another Penn State guy, man. Penn State's got some great players coming into this draft. Offensive tackle, I think, is another area. I'm sorry, offensive guard is another area I think the Lions are going to concentrate on in this draft. But offensive tackle, they always go top 10. So your best overall is going to be up there. Brock Bowers from Georgia. I mean, is he really the fourth best overall? I just don't see that. I would put Joe Alt ahead of him any day. I'd put Drake May ahead of him, to be honest with you. Romy Odunzi, wide receiver. I don't know much about him. I didn't watch any tape yet, but I will because I've heard this guy is pretty electric and has Calvin Johnson-esque type ability. So I'm looking forward to his tape. I really am. Jaden Daniels, LSU. Let's take a look at Jaden Daniels. Or maybe not. All right, let me go back to a different screen here. What are you guys' thoughts on Cooper DeJean or DeJean, however you pronounce his last name? I see in this list, he's not in the top 10, but in PFF, he's in the top 8. I'm going to switch this up. We're going to go to PFF. Does anybody have high hopes for Cooper to actually get drafted in the first round? I have watched a little bit of his tape. I'd have to say I haven't seen what everyone is talking about just yet. I mean, he's a phenomenal player, but I just haven't seen it just yet. All right, so number 7, Romeo Odunzi. Check out his tape. Tell me if you think he has anything considerable to Calvin Johnson type ability, because this guy's a big guy, 6'3", 215. Other sites have him 6'4", 230. And that's the guy that I'm looking for. You know, if the Lions want to move up and grab a big bodied guy, maybe he falls a little bit. Yeah, DeJean Cooper. We'll just go Cooper. Definitely physically gifted, Sean. I agree with that. Number 10 here, Jerzon Newton. Defensive line. He's a junior. 84.9 in 2023 PFF grade. 91.5 though last season. He had a much better season last year. Illinois is a very good school. They turn out some of the best cornerbacks, safeties, and their defensive front is really starting to get some notice. So I'll be interested to see what his tape looks like. Jaden Daniels, number 11 by PFF, 6'4", 210. Quarterback, he's a senior out of LSU, 94.7 this season. I don't know his whole story, but again, there's a lot of quarterbacks that have prototypical size in this draft. Let me go back to Caleb Williams real quick. And Drake May. So Drake May, 6'4", 230. Caleb, 6'1", 215. He's one of the smaller quarterbacks in the league. Talis Fuaga, probably just butchered that. Tackle. Is a junior, 88.2, 6'6", 334. That's a big dude. Beavers. I'm not sure what school that is. Oregon State? Must be Oregon State. Nate Wiggins, that's someone that the Lions are interested in from what I'm hearing, at least Lions fans. Interesting prospect. One of the taller guys out there. Matter of fact, let me see if my stats are still up. I'm pretty sure I did corners as well. I did. Let's look at it. Let's see how close Nate Wiggins is. I think I did offensive lineman too. All right, best corners. So Nate Wiggins is 6'2", 185. And you can see on this list all of the guys that I measured up. If there's holes missing where their measurable is supposed to be, it's because I couldn't find one. But Sauce Gardner, Patrick Surtain, Jair Alexander, Darius Slay, Jalen Ramsey, Tariq Woolen, Stephon Gilmore, Marshawn Lattimore, Devin Witherspoon, Joey Porter. Excellent season for both those guys. So when you look at the best cornerback, I had him as high as 6'4". That was just an average 6'4". That's crazy tall. This can't be right. Must be on the wrong one. Oh, you know what? It's not average. I'm sorry. I knew I was on the wrong one. All right, I'll have to come back to that one. That one's not finished. Actually, well, let's leave it up. So 6'3", 6'2", 5'10", 6 foot, 6'1", 5'10", 6'4". So if I were to do quick math in my head, you've got 5'10", 6'6", 6'1". I would say 6.5 to 6'1" is probably your average of all these guys. 6.5 to 6'1". Nate Wiggins is 6'2". And if you look at their weight, if I do quick math on all these guys, only a couple of them have the weight put in there. But I typically like to see my guys about $195, a little bit heavier so that they can, take a hit, give a hit. 4.4 speed, 4.5 at probably at the slowest. But if you look at these guys on the list, you've got 4.4, 4.42, 4.38, 4.36, 4.41, 4.32, 4.26. So yeah, 4.4 speed. That's where we're looking. So probably 6'1", 4.4 speed, 195. And Nate Wiggins fits it. Sean says Mitchell is too handsy. If he gets beat, he will grab receivers, and we already have a corner that does that. Jerry Jacobs. I don't think Jerry's coming back. Ryan Van Valkenburg, what's up, man? He says Quinnen Mitchell or Kool-Aid McKinstry would be nice. I watched Kool-Aid's tape the other day. I started working up a video for him. Love it. And they actually have two pretty good guys on that team. Here's Quinnen Mitchell right here. 91.5 overall. PFF rank has him the 19th overall prospect in the league. Or I'm sorry, in the draft. Perfect size and weight, 6 foot, 196. Let's look at his draft profile. We'll see if there's anything in there. Nothing. So I'm going to have to do all the work. Black Mamba 313, what's up, man? How you doing? Glad you could join us tonight. Ryan says, Heisman winners make me nervous. I don't know the last time a Heisman winner was drafted by the Lions. I think that's a good it's a good quiz question, right? A little trivia. Maybe Barry Sanders was the last one. All right, so Bo Nix, PFF 20. 93 overall, man. These guys got some good grades. Kool-Aid McKinstry. There's the other one, Ryan. So TJ Tampa. Kool-Aid McKinstry. I love this tape. 6'1", 195. And by the way, Sean, you were right. I did watch Mitchell's tape, and he is quite handsy. But I believe some of that stuff can be worked out. But you're right on one thing. When I see that, I try to stay away from it early in the draft. Like, in the first round, I'm going to stay away from anyone that is handsy. And that's why, I had Devon Witherspoon as my number one overall, because he was probably one of the cleanest guys in coverage. Joey Porter was really handsy. Deonte Banks was actually really good. There's a couple other guys who slipped way down. Can't remember his name right now. But a lot of guys were pretty handsy. So I kicked them out of the first round. I don't think that a good scout is going to look at those guys and say, yeah, you're a first round talent. You're just handsy. No, you're a first round talent if you're not handsy. You got to be able to defend just because you're getting away with it. You know, at the college level and the refs aren't calling it. I mean, you know darn well that at the next level, it's going to be a flag every 5 seconds. So you've got to be able to play, with your hands in your pockets, so to speak, to make it into the first round. So the Lions are also going to need a guard. And I just haven't seen, a guard in this first round that is going to slip. I haven't seen one really at all. There's a center. There's Jackson Powers Johnson. And quite honestly, that could be our pick. Steve, I haven't looked at TJ Tampa yet, but I will. I definitely will. Let me write that down real quick. TJ Tampa. There's another one I got to go back and look at too that someone brought up. But Jackson Powers Johnson. So let's talk about the offensive side for just a moment. We know that Frank Ragnow's hurting, right? We know that at some point this guy's going to have to hang up the cleats. I want to say he has 2 more years left on his contract. So this season and next season, there might even be a season after that. But be that as it may, I don't know if Frank is going to be able to go another season after this. I think the guy is, Demigod 313. There you are. I just don't know if he's going to be able to hang in for 2 more seasons or 3 more seasons. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions take the most unsexy pick in their draft at home and draft a center in the first round. You got to remember too that Brad Holmes is all about his guys. He's all about the right picks. He doesn't care where he picks them, as long as they're the right guys. And whether he wants them for 5 years or 4 years, I think that really depends on where he picks these guys. He wanted Jack Campbell for 5 years because he knew that maybe he would need a little bit of time. He really didn't. I can't wait to see what he does next year. Jahmyr Gibbs, he probably had no clue that he was going to bust out that quickly, but he did. So now we've got these guys for a long time, and we're glad that we took them in the first round. Who cares if they could have slipped to the second, which we know more than likely wouldn't have happened with Jahmyr. Jack, maybe. But it's all about having that contract for a longer period of time and the option to keep those guys an extra year. Ryan says, I like the idea of drafting Ragnow's replacement sooner rather than later so the guy can develop before taking over. Exactly. It's a great luxury to have, guys to be able to sit and learn and develop. And it's exactly how I feel. It's just sometimes there's not enough room on a roster. So this center that, that they do draft, when they draft one or when they bring one in, they have to play guard to start. We need an immediate guard, right or left. And whether that Jonah Jackson is gone or not, or whether Graham Glasgow comes back or not, we need another guard. We've seen what happens when this offensive line is missing one piece when Jonah was out. They just don't play as well. So they've got to be able to come in and play guard and give this offense consistency, and bringing in a high profile first rounder, second rounder, I think would give them a better opportunity. Kobe Sorsdahl did okay. He may have an incredible sophomore year, but he's not that guy just yet. Steve K says, is Zinter healed up? I don't know. Zach Zinter? No idea. But we'll look at him too. I'll write him down too. Ryan says, I love that Brad Holmes drives the talking heads mad with not following the status quo. Me too, because that's why people can't figure out what he's doing. No one has a clue in their war rooms what Brad Holmes is going to do or what he's thinking. I could only imagine. Hey, Lauren, what's up, buddy? How you doing? I could only imagine on draft day when they made that trade for Brian Branch, and Packers are like, hey, you're not going to take Brian, right? Oh no, who's Brian? Yeah, that's how I see it going. I think the Brads just completely snaked Branch. Lone Wolf says Kansas State guard Cooper Beebe, 6'4", 335. Georgia center Cedric Van Pran, 6'4", 310. What does anybody know about them? Well, I can tell you right now, I know jack squat. Well, let's write them down real quick so that I can do some content on it. How about that? Cooper Beebe and Cedric Van Pran. And you guys can all do me a favor if you'd like. All right. Sorry about that. Do me a favor. If you'd like, you can send me an email at info@rockdownpodcastnetwork.com if you want specific videos done. I'll be more than happy to try to fit some in during the week. As we get closer to the draft, obviously there's going to be a limited amount of space and time, but I'll be more than happy to do some. Debbie got 313 says Adisa Isaac, defensive end, Penn State. Yeah, we talked about him a little bit earlier. Penn State's got, 3 guys coming in this draft that are all pretty darn good. Debbie, God, did you watch the Theo Johnson video I put out this week or this weekend, yesterday? I'm curious to know what you think. Actually, I think you answered it. I don't think you liked it. Yes, the Calvin Johnson vibe is Romy Odunzi. Some websites have him listed as high as 230, 6'4", 230. So I haven't watched all of his tape yet, but he is someone that's been talked about that just has that size ability, that playing ability. I don't think there's ever going to be another Calvin Johnson. I think we need to clear the air there. But when I compare, it's that size. Like the Lions haven't had that size since Calvin's been gone. They didn't have that size before Calvin arrived. It was sure nice having that size when he was here. I'd love to have it back. We need another go-getter, and that's why I like the Theo Johnson too, is because he's got great size. He's a big time red zone threat. He does magic in the red zone, man. That's what Penn State thrives on. Tight ends in the red zone. And I think that he fits nicely. Since we lost, 3 tight ends this season. Towards the end of the season, everyone was gone but Sam Laporta. We had to bring in Zach Ertz. So who knows what the health of these guys are going to be next year. I'm sure they're all going to be fine. But at what point do you start to upgrade? Mitchell hasn't turned out, to be anything yet. Brock Wright's probably getting a little older. Zielstra had a nasty injury. So that's why I started with tight end. And then I'll start going into defense too. Theo Johnson is not a reach, demigod. What do you mean? Did I say that he was going to go in the first round? I don't think so. No, they're not going to take him in the first. He's a second round guy. For sure. But you just wait and see. He could be one that climbs all the way to the top, meaning the top of the tight ends. I called a few of them last year. Just wait and see. We'll see what happens. I didn't give him that gold medal yet. I didn't say that he was going to be the number 1 tight end yet. All right, Laura McQuaig says Farniak, guard. The tight end in Atlanta. Kyle Pitts. Farniak, guard. Connor Galvin, tackle. Michael Neese, offensive line. These guys are on the practice roster, 2 of the 3 all year. Anyone know anything about these guys? Yeah, they're just practice guys for right now. I don't think any of them are going to work out to be starters. I think that they're camp bodies and then they're practice squad guys, while they're around and not, getting sniped by other teams. They're learning in the system. Was it 2022 or 2021? We went through like 12 or 14 different offensive line formations. We lost like 3 guards in one game or 2 guards in one game or something crazy. And we didn't have any other offensive linemen left. I think we were down to our last one. So that's why those guys are around. You know, I just don't think that they're going to be anything special. But I can't say that I know everything about them either. I wouldn't say that. Thanks, Lone Wolf. Lone Wolf says that was a great video on Theo Johnson. I'm telling you, man, watch his tape. You guys will love him, and watch his interview too, because you'll love how he talks. The guy, when I heard him say that he just wants to prove everybody wrong, all the doubters, that's his number one objective, immediately reminded me of like how St. Brown was talking about all the doubters. And immediately I could just see the chip just being put right on the shoulder. And those are Brad Holmes types of guys, guys that want to prove something to somebody, not guys that believe that they already have it all. It's a big difference. There's a big difference in how you play too. All right, let's get through this list here. Number 25 on PFF's list is Braylon Trice. So Braylon is an intriguing prospect on the edge. I like I said earlier, I don't know a ton on him just yet. 6'4", 274. So he is like that perfect size based on the metrics. Demigod, let me show you something real quick. Just because you missed the first part of this, I believe. So this is how crazy I go with the stats. I took all of the best defensive ends, a couple outside linebackers. And this is where I start when I start with stats. So I created the Rocked On Analytics where I've measured up all of these guys to find that ideal size, speed, weight, hand size, arm length. I start here. And when I start here, then I go and look and I find the prospects that are close to this. And then where they line up, are they first round, second? I mean, are they first round, second round, from what PFF's saying, from what CBS is saying, from what Fox is saying, that's how I start. And then I watch the tape, and then the tape tells me a lot. And then I watch the combine and it tells me the rest. So that's how I start, buddy. And you get good quality, in-depth research from me just because I love to do it. I take the time to do it. And so I wanted to share this tonight to kind of show everybody this is what I plan on doing this off season, is really diving deep, go a little bit further than I did last year, and put out some good quality content. Really good opinions. I'm not going to be right all the time. Nobody ever is. Hardly anybody is in this game. You've got 32 other GMs that you're going up against, and trying to figure out what they're thinking. And beyond that, you've got another team of 20 guys underneath them that are feeding them information. I wish I had something like that. I wish I had a team. Lauren McQuaig, wherever you are, if you're still in here, Lauren McQuaig does some amazing stats, like really puts together some great information. That's the kind of people that I would love to have on the team. Cool, man. I appreciate that. He says, okay, I respect that. I just need to look at the tapes too. There you go. Demigod says, but I will not be surprised if Brad Holmes drafts him in the second round and he end up in a Pro Bowl in his rookie season. I think Holmes likes to look on people's faces afterward. That's great. There's Lauren McQuaig popping it in. There you go. Demigod says, quick question out of all those top players, which one you look for the most? I guess to paraphrase your question, like which one do I think that the Lions would be best suited to snag? Well, if there's only 25 listed here, or are you talking about the list that I compiled of the best DEs? Which one are you talking about? Fonzie34 says, I don't know what your occupation is, but you should put in an application for a Lions scout. Maybe some year, Fonzie 3-4, maybe. I personally believe I could do it, but I think I need more time. I need to learn too. I'm not where I want to be just yet. Personally, I feel like I've got, I like to work on myself before I think that I could help somebody else, And those guys over there, they're incredible. They've been doing this a lot longer than me. If I end up being a scout someday, I'll probably be, 55 years old and retiring to be a scout and do it for fun. Still get paid to do it, but do it for fun. That would be my dream retirement. Travel the country and be a scout. That's what I would love to do. Someday, we'll see. Demigod, I'm just not following you, my man. Freak of nature comparison? I missed it. So the best one out of the top 25 on PFF right now, it's Marvin Harrison. I'm telling you, that guy is the biggest game changer, I think, on this list right now. Offensively. So let's go defensively. And that's a close second because I think Caleb Williams is going to be a big-time game changer for some team. But I think Marvin Harrison is an instant game wrecker when he joins the team. I think he's going to be better than Jefferson. And I know that's a tall task, a tall order to fill, but man, you watch that guy, and you mentioned earlier about Calvin Johnson, freakish ability. He's it. He is it. He just doesn't have the size, meaning the weight. But, he's a go-getter, man. I love it. Not big on the OSU, but this is about the NFL. This is not about college. So got to look past all that. I don't pick on, on my colors. What I mean by that is I don't pick guys based on what school they're coming from. That has a big part of it because of the, the facilities they're in, the leadership they're under, the coaching, tree that they're working under. That is a big proponent to how they develop later on in the NFL, but that's not how I pick them. Marvin, yeah, I'm right there with you, Ryan. If Marvin Harrison Jr. goes to the Bears and they get Danielle Hunter, I will lose it. Me too. Because if Danielle Hunter goes to the Bears, they will have the best defense in 2024, hands down. Hands down. The problem with drafting Harrison, though, for the Bears was who's going to throw to him. I'm sorry, Justin Fields is not that great, in my opinion. All right, so on the list, we know you would like your DE or DBs to have long arms. So you say you're looking for a long arm DE, but he's only 195, 6'2", but he can run a 4.3. Long arm DE, but I lost you, my man. So you said on the list, we know you would like your defensive end or your DBs to have long arms. Yes. So you say you're looking for a long arm DE. True. Longer arm. Yes. But he's only 195, 6'2", and he can run that list. I don't know what you're talking about, but the list that was up there a minute ago for cornerbacks, that was not the right metric at the bottom. That one's not complete yet. If that's what you're talking about. But as far as cornerbacks go, yeah, I like a 6 foot minimum, 6'1" preferred, 195, 4.4 or better speed. 4.5 at the slowest, but 4.5, 4.4 or better preferred for corners. I want someone that's a little bit bigger, a little bit longer. They can take a hit, can pound it if they need to pound it and get up in the box, hit these guys head on. Good run support, but also we need a man press guy. That's what I'm looking for, is I need a man press guy on this Lions team. Someone that can cover, but someone that, can also man press, get up and jam and stay sticky all the way. I hope I'm answering your question. As far as defensive end goes, yes, I definitely want someone with longer arms than the tackle that they're going up against. Your arm is your first, your first distancing move away from a tackle. You get out, get long, you keep them away from you. And some guys just have shorter arms, but sometimes their wingspan is a little bit longer or wider. And depending on how you turn your body, you can make your arm actually be a little bit longer with the wingspan. I don't know if that makes sense, but Bucky McBad Bat says Okudah had the perfect build for a cornerback. Hips were too tight, feet and mind were too slow. Man, I think you hit the nail on the head there.
No respect.
No respect for Okudah. Bucky McBad Bat says MHJ to Detroit would be insane. Marvin Harrison it would be insane. If there's one guy that Brad's going to jump up on this board, it's Marvin Harrison, in my opinion. But I think it's going to be too far of a jump. I really do. All right, so this is all I wanted to do tonight, guys and ladies. I just wanted to go through how we're going to get this started for free agency. And when we get talking about the draft, what you're going to see coming from my channel is just going to be loaded with some solid stats and analytics and metrics. If you guys would like to, submit anything as far as, players that you want analyzed and have me do a video on it, I'll be more than happy to do it. Just send it to info@rockdownpodcastnetwork.com, or you can even text the show line. It's usually on during the day. I don't answer it unless I'm live, but you can text the show line 313-312-0348 and send me some information that way too. So I appreciate all of you guys for jumping in tonight and joining Rock Down Detroit Lions. The last chapter of the 2023 season has officially closed, but the new league year is approaching. And once the new league year starts, it's game on. In other news, Matthew Betts, I read some information yesterday, and from what I understand, Matthew Betts, if he should be able to sign by tomorrow. So if the Lions are going to ink that deal, from what I understand, he should be able to sign by tomorrow. So look for that news to come out. I do like this guy. He is another Brad Holmes guy all the way. I believe he had a brief stint with the Bears last season too, or maybe it was the year before, but this guy, I think, has an opportunity to do something in the league. He's not going to be a starter, but I think he has some opportunity. We'll see what happens, but he's a good dude. I did a lot of reading on him. So look for Matthew Betts tomorrow to see if he signs with the Lions. And if he does, I've already reached out to his people to see if I can get him on the show. No word back yet, but we'll see what happens. Demigod says, I was measuring the physical body type at the DE position. For example, Miles Garrett has long arms, but he may lack speed, but his strength is top 5, being one of the strongest players at his position. I agree with that. So the last thing I'll leave you with is, sometimes you might be a little bit shorter, but you might have longer arms. Or like Bruce Irvin, he was shorter than Hutch, longer arms than Hutch. May have a quicker first step. You may have more powerful legs. You might have better bend. You kind of have to look at all of the, intangibles and measurables and kind of compile them together. Like, do I need this in the A gap, the B gap, an edge guy? Like, where does he belong? Where does he fit? How many snaps does he take here or there? And that's how I try to line these guys up from fitment. And that's why I think I had good success last season, is because I was fitting them into all the boxes where we needed help. But AG moved these guys around too. So, but good point, Demigod. And Trevon Sweat, I don't have any thoughts on him just yet. I will be doing a video on him this week, though. I will be doing some defensive videos. I promised you guys that I was going to do defensive ends and defensive tackles first, and then I started with Theo Johnson because I just liked the guy too much. I just liked what he was bringing to the table. So I will do defense this week, and Amateur Bros ATV, I promise you it'll be out this week. I'll write him down right now. Since you brought him up, he'll get the video. Trevon Sweat. But that's all for me tonight. I appreciate y'all joining in. Please do me a favor. If you guys have not subscribed yet, hit that button, subscribe, hit that bell, and let's get ready for another great season. I'm feeling good. it's different at the end of this season. I feel great. Like, I feel ready to go. Got some good energy flowing. I think the Lions are going to be great this year. I think we got a lot to look forward to. I can't wait to freeze my butt off at the draft outside downtown Detroit, but I wouldn't miss it for the world. All right, y'all. Go One Pride. Go Detroit Lions. You know what to do. We'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.